was the summer of 2002. I was 10 years old and two of my best friends, Marcus and Terrell, came over for a sleepover at my house in rural Pennsylvania. My mom had set up an old tent in the backyard under a tree near the fence line. No phones, no distraction, just the summer breeze, the sound of bugs, and the glow of a dying flashlight between us. We were just kids pretending to be brave, pretending we didn't need to sleep inside like we usually did. My mom let us do our thing. She said goodnight and reminded us, don't go wandering past the fence. We laughed and said yes ma'am, but we had no plans going anywhere. We were too hyped to even fall asleep. Around 11 p.m. we were still up telling each other scary stories we have remembered from Goosebump books and late night cable, the kinds of stories that are spooky enough to give you chills, but still silly enough afterwards. But then we heard it. At first I thought maybe my mom came to check up on us. Maybe we were too loud, but I listened harder. The steps weren't coming from the house. They were coming behind the tent, on the other side of the fence, then closer, inside the yard. We froze. Nobody said a word. We just stared at each other, wide-eyed. The flashlight was off now. It felt like whoever was out there could see us, could hear us breathing. They were close. 10 feet away, maybe less. Then we heard it. Two voices, not talking, not whispering, mumbling. One voice was lower, gurgle. The other was faster, nervous, maybe younger. But they were just mumbling nonsense, like two people arguing under their breaths. I whispered, "Do you think someone's out there?" And Marcus said, "Shh, don't move." So we didn't. For what felt like hours, we just sat there, and the mumbling continued, for sometimes closer, sometimes right outside. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to look. I moved slowly. I unzipped the flap just an inch. Nothing. Just a backyard, silent, still. The air felt heavier. The crickets weren't chirping anymore. Then we heard it. Like an axe being slammed into wood, followed by heavy dragging sounds. Then a deep, hollow crack. A crashing thud, like a tree falling over, but we knew there was any big trees enough back there. We knew what was back there, the fence, a shed, and an old garden patch that hasn't been used in years. We wanted to scream for help, but no one was ever close enough to hear, so we stayed there all night, barely blinking, clutching onto each other like we were going to disappear next. When morning came, everything looked normal. No trees was down, no sign of footsteps, the garden was untouched, the shed door was closed. We even checked the grass behind the tent. Nothing. No footprints. No broken branches. Just sunlight and silence. After that night, we never talked about it. Our parents wouldn't believe us. We tried to pretend we just had scared ourselves with our own stories. But every summer after that, we stayed inside, and none of us, not me, not Marcus, not Tyrell, ever camped in that backyard again. They heard footsteps all night, but in the morning, there was no prints, no trail, not even a single broken branch. It was as if nothing has ever been there. Or maybe it still is. It was the summer of 2015. I was 20, hanging out with 4 college friends, Mark, Jenna, Ruby, and Aaron, for a weekend getaway at Pine Lakes Campground. We set up tents near close to the water's edge, unpacked coolers, and divided straight into the summer vibes. Sun, laughter, good food, no adults, no rules. The afternoon folded into evening, and we grilled burgers and hot dogs over a crinkling fire pit, swapping stories and toasting marshmallows as the sun melted behind the trees. Around 8 after dinner, we settled by the fire. Ruby was telling ghost stories she read online. Mark teased her.
"Empty your memory bank, Rubes. We're here to relax."
But then, the joke landed on me, and I said I heard Pine Lakes has drowned spirits. People see shadows walking across the water at night. Everyone laughed. "Show us then," Aaron challenged. Jen and Mark got real stupid dares going on, but none of us were expecting things to get real. Shortly after 10, Jenna and I slipped into the lake. The water was surprisingly warm under the moonlight. We floated about 20 feet, talking in whispers, not wetting our lips or disturbing the quiet night. My toes dangled in the inky, smirking water. I remember thinking, this is perfect, but just as the moon crested the trees, I heard something shifting behind us. I sat up in the water and squinted. That's when I heard a soft childish laugh. It was in the distance, coming across the lake from the trees. My heart thumped. I whispered, "Jenna, did you hear that?" She froze too, the laughter coming again, this time closer, echoing and mocking. Jenna swallowed hard. "Maybe it's someone's kid," she offered, but her voice shook. I didn't answer. I felt watched. Something about the sound cut deeper than any ghost story. We decided to head back, in silence. We paddled towards the shore. Each stroke felt heavy, like we were cutting through syrup. Then the hammock creaking behind us. At the campsite, not tree crack, something deliberate. We crawled out of the lake and ran towards the campfire. The fire was low, but the embers glowed. We were shaking, whispering about what we'd heard. Only Mark and Ruby were there, wrapped in blankets. "What the hell is your problem?" Mark asked groggily. Aaron wasn't with them. None of us have noticed he wasn't there. We jumped up and scanned the tree lines. No sign of him. The lake, empty. Campers asleep. It was all so quiet, I felt a cold chill. Then, snapping from the woods like dried wood breaking. Ruby grabbed our camp lantern and flipped it on. We waited, hearts pounding, nothing. Calm, dumb, tension. Then a solitude darting through the trees. Far behind the firelight, something moved quickly. Maybe a man, maybe a child, maybe nothing. We packed fast, left everything behind, even the fire pit tools. We walked in loose clusters, back to our cars. No one spoke, the only sound of the crunch of stones and our ragged breaths. As we drove away, me in front, I heard it again. Only this time, it echoed inside the cabin. Like someone's breath, I tapped Jenna's shoulder. She flinched. We didn't talk, we didn't look back. We didn't tell anybody. We said there was mosquitoes, that Aaron got cold. But I knew it wasn't that simple. The thought of leaving his flashlight behind still haunts me. Every summer since I drive past Pine Lake, I sit by the boat dock after dark, and sometimes, just sometimes, I swear I hear a shadowed laughter of a child drifting across the water, calling me back. But here's the part that has been eating at me for years. We all left Pine Lakes that night. 5 of us drove in, 5 of us drove out. We were all quiet the entire ride home, but I swear to you, in the back seat, Aaron never said a word, not even once. A week later, he stopped showing up to class, deleted all of his social media, moved out of his dorm without telling anybody. Well, we haven't heard from him since. And the weird part, a few months ago, I drove past Pine Lakes again. I had the windows down, just letting the air hit my face, and I could have sworn, I heard the same little giggles drifting in the trees. Only this time, it sounded exactly like Aaron. The summer of 2011 was unusually hot. I remember that detail so clearly because my little brother Aaron and I couldn't sleep through the nights. We tossed and turned with our windows open, fans blasting, and the air still felt soup thick. Our parents had taken a last-minute job offer in the next town over, just 20 minutes away, and left us at our grandparents' house for a couple weeks. They lived on the edge of a small southern Indiana town, surrounded by fields and old forgotten houses that always looked like they belonged to another era. The house wasn't scary, at least not at first. It had one long gravel driveway, a porch swing, and a faint smell of flowers mixed with old wood. But at night, they felt different. The kind of different you don't notice until it's way too late. Aaron and I were the type to explore. We only had 2 years apart. I was 15, he was 13. But we acted like twins. The first week we walked into the perimeter of the property. Every evening, there was a shed, some collapsing fences, and behind it, a small field that dipped into the wooded area, no more than 2 acres deep. Nothing huge, but it had a thick, untouched look, like no one had stepped in it for years. One night after dinner, Aaron came to me with a flashlight and a mischievous grin. "You remember that weird path behind the shed?" he asked. I did. It was barely visible, like someone used to walk in it a long time ago, but nature was slowly reclaiming it. So, just before 10 p.m., we snuck out onto the porch and headed towards the path. The moon was full, and I remember feeling slightly guilty, like we were breaking some kind of rule we haven't been told about. At first it was fun. We joked around, pointed out weirded plants, and even found an old broken shovel stuck into the ground. But But after 10 minutes of walking, we realized the trees got denser, the cicadas had stopped. There was no breeze. It felt like we stepped into a room where someone has just been talking, but now it's silent, waiting. Aaron was ahead of me when he suddenly stopped. "What was that?" he whispered. I looked over his shoulder and saw it too. A small wooden structure, almost like a shed, but it looked ancient. The boards were wrapped, half the roof half caved in, and strange markings have been carved into one of the planks. "Probably just a hunter's post," I muttered, but my gut was twisting. The air felt off, like the temperature had dropped at least 10 degrees. Aaron walked closer to the structure and aimed his flashlight inside. That's when he froze. I came up behind him and looked in. There was 3 wooden chairs, perfectly aligned in a triangle. In the center was an old ceramic bowl, white with red stains, crust around the rims. And I know how this sounds. We were kids. It could have been paint, it could have been anything. But then we heard it. Not even close, but not far enough to ignore. It was thin and wheezy, like someone was laughing under their breath. But it didn't sound playful. It sounded mocking, tired, familiar. We whipped around, aiming our flashlights in all directions. Nothing, but I swear on everything I could feel someone watching. And Aaron grabbed my wrist. "We need to go," so we ran. The kind of run where your legs can't move fast enough and you feel the darkness trying to pull you back. Didn't stop until we were back home. Grandma was asleep. We locked every door and sat on the couch, not saying a word, just breathing and listening. An hour later, Aaron spoke. "You heard it too, right?" I nodded. "That laugh sounded just like Mom." That's what showed me the most. He was right. There was something familiar in the consonants of it. But Mom wasn't due back for more than 3 days. There was no way she could have gone there without us knowing. We barely slept. The next morning we went out with Grandma to feed the chickens. She could tell that we were tired and asked what happened. We told her a cleaned up version. We said we heard animals in the wood. She paused, then said something I'll never forget. That trail behind her said, "No one's supposed to use it. That land used to belong to the Marshalls. After their house burned down, no one bought it." She looked off into the distance. "Some say it never really let them leave." Later that day, Aaron just went quiet, just off. He sat by the window, barely spoke. When I asked him what's wrong, he just said, "I heard that laugh again, but it wasn't outside." I asked where. He pointed in the hallway leading to the guest room. It came from in there. That night we slept in the same room. I don't think of it much, just scared kid stuff. But around 2:34 a.m., I woke up to find Aaron staring at the window. "Aaron," I whispered. He turned. "I didn't go in the woods tonight." "I know," I said. "We are both here." He shook his head. "No, I mean I didn't go." But he's still out there, and he's laughing again. Aaron never slept by the window again. And to this day, every summer, right after the same week, I swear I hear the same laughter just outside my own window now. I don't know if it followed us or it's always been watching.